Oh, yeah. There it is, some tunes for C-Ball, James Cybulski of Sportsnet here. Thank you for coming in so early.
No problem. Can I just say, Ennio Morricone, all the Wild West stuff, I'm a huge spaghetti Western fan. And in terms of soundtracks, I actually have a whole bunch of them on my iPod. And so when I first started dating my wife, sometimes when I'm just home by myself, I'm just kind of puttering around, I'll put spaghetti Western music on because that's what dudes do on occasion, right?
That's how you
and so
roll.
all of a sudden she'd be coming into the house and what are you listening to? It's
makes me happy,
fistful of dollars, it's that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, fistful of dollars, that leads us directly to opening of the regular season for the Vancouver Canucks, which you're here to tell us all about. It has to begin with the guy behind the bench.
Well, that's what the reset turned out to be, right? And if you're a Canucks fan, you're sitting there going, all right, there's going to be a complete reset. This is what the general manager, Mike Gillis, is telling us. This is what he's singing. Okay, what are they going to do? They bring in Fonzie. They bring in John Tortorella. And
you dropped it.
Yeah. Oh, look at him.
He
totally looks like Henry Winkler. And this is the change that ultimately was needed here in Vancouver. This is a team that has been a Stanley Cup contender for the last number of years. They faltered the last 2 seasons in the playoffs. I think it was time for a different voice. Alain Vigneault has had a tremendous run in Vancouver, but they needed a guy to crack the whip because you weren't going to blow up the entire team, Jody.
No.
You weren't going to trade the Twins. You weren't going to move Ryan Kessler. You weren't going to move Luongo and Schneider and all of a sudden do this complete reboot. The team's too good still. Mm-hmm. So this is a guy I think that they want, kind of the hard-ass sort of coach, pardon the language, kids, but to kind of
You're allowed.
Crack the whip and
fitness,
say,
attitude,
all of it, and
systems,
and try to squeeze lightning from a bottle one last time from this team. I think that's ultimately the move. I like the move. We'll see if it turns out to work.
You mentioned Mike Gillis. Mm-hmm. Many detractors, many supporters of what this man has done. There's no denying how far this team has gone under his guidance. Thoughts on Mike Gillis moving forward?
Well, I think Mike Gillis, to be quite honest with you, reaped the benefits of having a pretty good core from Brian Burke and Dave Nonis's years, and he has certainly done a really good job in terms of keeping the franchise afloat and keeping the success going, ultimately taking them to Game 7, under his sort of, watch to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2011. I think where his shortcomings might be this year is this team's really thin on the third and fourth lines. Mm-hmm. And you look at teams that have hoisted the Stanley Cup in the last few years, Chicago,
deep.
Boston, they're deep. Yeah. It's not necessarily the most talented, but it's teams that have that depth. And you saw where Vancouver kind of ran out of that depth, in the Cup final against Boston. That's the one thing that scares me, where they talked about bringing in youth and bringing in this injection of youth. None of the kids ultimately crack the roster, and they bring in kind of journeyman minor leaguers. But that third and fourth line, you're going to have to hope that these guys turn into a bunch of overachievers for this team to ultimately have success this year. Are they still talented to be in the playoffs?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got a great 1-2 punch with Kessler and the Sedins. Yeah. You still have a great goaltender in Roberto Luongo.
But
you have a deep defensive core.
That's the question going in. Many people are the October swoon.
Yeah.
Will John Tortorella lose his mind when there's that October? Or do you anticipate Lou stepping up and being different?
I think Luongo is going to be really good this year, right from the get-go. And I think we all got nervous collectively going, what happened with that first period in his first preseason game? But you know what? He gave up 1 goal in his last 7 preseason periods. And I know it's only preseason, but this is a guy who is a notorious slow starter, and he looks like he's in mid-season form already, the way he kind of finished out the preseason. So I think the way that this guy has been so pissed off at this organization, he just wants to get out and play, and I think he's going to take that frustration out on opponents this year. I think this will be the least of his concern. I think the Olympic thing is also a big thing for him as well.
Right. He's got a lot of...
he's a complicated man.
He does.
And no one understands him but his woman.
Oh, there it is.
Big shaft guy.
I can't follow that with anything. Except for the biggest question of the day. Yeah. Will you wear that hat on Sportsnet Connected?
I would love to wear this hat on Sportsnet.
Can you wear it
on
BT for Sportsnet Connected?
Can I just point out, since I've walked into the studio this morning, I've got Walt White.
Yep.
Or Heisenberg.
Right, which I just dropped.
To the Breaking Bad. Yep. I've got Charlie Chaplin, and I've had Justin Timberlake. So Timberlake's pretty cool.
How about this, though? How about this doppelganger?
Which doppelganger?
Here it comes.
All right.
We're loading it up. We're getting it up. How about that?
Yes, the Martin Rennie. I've had that one a few times. You know who my ultimate doppelganger? You know who my doppelganger for 15 years was always Jonathan Silverman from Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
And the single guy, that short-lived NBC show. Yeah, that was.
Russ LeCay? What do you think?
Yeah, you got that one absolutely right. What do you think, Seaball, about the kinder, gentler torts?
I think the kinder, gentler torts is going to cease to exist when the wins and losses start to matter now, Russ. I think he's probably going to snap before the end of
the
October.
Week.
Yeah,
so we're not going to confuse him with Anthony from the Wiggles or anything like that. He's not going to be all smiles.
Probably not. No,
okay,
no.
Right.
He's probably more
forward
like
to that
Murray.
initial snapping, and I'm wondering if it'll happen when in the first press conference when you put the mic in front of him and ask a question to the Fawns.
You should go down to Rogers Arena and be that guy.
Just go up to him and go, hey.